Have you ever been in this situation where you've wanted to plant something but there's a whole lot of weeds and grass that you've got to get rid of first? I've certainly been there, and you think you've got to get down on your hands and knees and pull all the plants out. And then I discovered newspaper. And years ago I remember doing my whole of my back lawn. This was on a small farm I had in northern New South Wales, Australia. And I had a wheelbarrow, and I got a whole lot of newspaper, and I stuck it in the wheelbarrow with water in it and put about layers of about 5 newspapers thick and overlapped it, and then put mulch on top, and it was great. I got rid of all the grass, and then I could grow the other things that I wanted to grow. But it was a lot of work. And then I discovered using weed mat and how much easier that was for larger areas. So whether you're using weed mat or you're using newspaper or cardboard, the principle is the same. What we're doing is we're cutting out the light so that the plants can't photosynthesize and produce energy, and they die. And that's why we also put mulch on the top of weed mat and put it on the top of newspapers as well, just to make sure we've got a really good blanket and make it really dark underneath. One of the things that I really want to emphasize is that this is a job that is only worth doing if you do it well. If you leave gaps and you don't overlap the cardboard and the newspaper well, or you bring out the weed mat and you don't get all the grass underneath, you'll still have an ongoing management problem. It really is a matter of eradicating, or I suppose clearing the whole ground of the plants that you don't want, so that you can establish the plants that you do want. At Hilltop Farm we use a lot of weed mat. The reason is we've got basically the property was a monoculture of Brachyarea decumbens, a tropical African grass. Some of you may be familiar with kikuyu, and basically how a lot of these grasses just take a lot of the energy and resources away from the plants that we're trying to grow. You know, some people use plastic sheeting instead of using cardboard and newspaper or weed mat. It's not something that I would recommend. The advantage of weed mat is that it's woven and it allows water and air to pass through, whereas plastic sheeting tends to suffocate everything. In this example here, we've used weed mat to get out the Brachyarea decumbens. There was also a bit of guinea grass that was this high that we just squashed down and covered under the mulch, under the weed mat. And this is the last interrow in our orchard. And now the orchard is all Brachyarea free and growing instead a mixture of living mulch plants that are supporting the growth of our fruit trees a lot more than the Brachyarea was. This is an area that we've only within the last few months we've pulled up the weed mat from, and now I'm really just waiting for the wet so we can get a lot more of our living mulch species established. It's hot and dusty work putting newspaper and the mulch down, but that's where the living mulch comes in. So if you can transition from a situation where you're getting rid of your grass and using weed mat and mulching to a situation where you're actually using living mulch instead of mulching all the time, it's a much better option. But this area is now done, and I just want to tell you about 2 other areas that we've done at Hilltop Farm. One was the bananas, and that's we've got a 150 metre long strip, and so we're able to do 50 metres at a time, and it was incredible. I'd had the bananas already in, and they were struggling, and I was struggling to keep them mulched and stop the grass growing all over them. And just by putting the weed mat down and the mulch, putting it down for 6 weeks and then moving it to the next strip down, I in fact had like 3 sections that I could look at, and it was amazing the difference in the bananas. They just went so from being sort of struggling and looking sort of a very sort of light coloured green to a much more vivid green and more vigorous growth just by removing grass from the bananas. The other big project that we did, and these are some photos of, is I've created 2 alleys. They're about 10 meters wide and about 50 to 170 meters long across my western sloping paddock. And the idea was to create shade and also some forage areas for the poultry and some fodder trees for the cattle. And we basically just went out and put weed mat down and rolled out round bales of mulch. And it was great to get some helping hand for that job, so, because it was a big job. So if you've got small areas to do, then by all means newspaper and cardboard is excellent. If you've got bigger areas to do, then I would really recommend weed mat, and again it's something that you can reuse, so it's not a single use thing. And also think about, if you're creating garden beds and you're creating areas that you're worried about will get weedy or grassy, think about the width of them and the length of them in relation to how wide you want them to make, and how wide you want to make them, and also therefore how wide your weed mat is going to be. So plan ahead and make life a little bit easier for yourself.